I call this meeting to order. Let the record show that all commissioners are present. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we don't have any minutes to approve. Anybody else wants to speak today? I only got one person, citizens comment. Anybody else? All right. Judge, come on up.
I figured we'd start out light this morning. This ought to be a good place to start. I've got two interns that, through your all's vision and leadership, you've allowed us to have interns and fund those intern positions. I've got Victoria Paz and also Daniel Esquivel. They're both here this morning. They want to just simply address you about, the program and what they've been able to see and what they've been able to do. I'll give you a brief introduction. Victoria comes to us from Texas State, formerly Southwest Texas when I was growing up. She was part of the Student Senate, involved in the organization of women in political science. She'll take her LSAT, which is a law school admission test, in September. During an interview, I had to ask her what she does for fun, because she seemed like she was involved in so much stuff. But all of her extracurricular activities, she just checked off all the boxes. These are the kind of young people that I want to see around me, and hopefully, open some doors for them. She is from Del Rio. She's going to study abroad here in Spain when she leaves us here in about a week or two. Again, in political science, some things there that she's going to be doing. She's really active, and so of course she's going to graduate early from Texas State. That just seems to be the norm for her. She's one of those go-getters. Daniel Esquivel, he will speak after her. Summa cum laude graduate from UTSA, 3.9 GPA in history. He earned a $60,000 scholarship. He'll be attending St. Mary's University School of Law in the fall. He already had legal experience, believe it or not, when he came to work for us, because he was an intern with the Bexar County DA's office in the DWI intake program. Very hardworking. What stood out, he was a Pizza Hut delivery person, which I liked. There's humility, there's someone there that understands to get out there and work, and he learned a lot of valuable lessons getting out there to work with people. And so again, he checked off all the boxes for me when he interviewed as well. I simply offered him the job right there at the interview. It was great. I'm gonna let them tell you how the program and your all's funding helped them to be here. We went on a lot of trips. I wanted them to get a full gamut of what it is that we do and how we affect other organizations and other offices. And they also are really helping me on a project that I'm very, very happy, and I'll let them speak to it. And of course, if there's something there that I want to accentuate, I will come back up if you'll indulge me another minute, because it's a project that I really have been wanting to do for a long time. I simply didn't have the time. And they have really been helping me, and I think it's going to be great, not only for today, but for the future. So, without any further ado, let me introduce Victoria.
Good morning. My name is Victoria Foss. So like the judge said, we've done several things here within our internship. We've taken several tours of the different facilities that we work with in the court. So we've gone to the DPS, the probation, we've toured the GEO facilities, and they did tour the police department as well. And so seeing how and being able to talk to those people in those departments has really given us a good idea of how all these different departments incorporate themselves into the court. And talking to so many people, the attorneys, different personnel, we've seen how many people have to go into the system for it to make it work smoothly. We've also been able to talk, like I said, to many attorneys and personnel, so having their advice and them giving us our opinions on a lot of different matters has really been helpful as well. It's very rare to find an internship like this where you get such a vast variety of different opportunities and experiences to meet different people. Most of the internships you see are very focused, but being able to experience one that has a lot of variety, and it has been very helpful, and it'll be very helpful to us in our futures, to wherever we go. And so I'd like to thank you all for the opportunity of letting us have this opportunity here with the courts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do y'all have any questions for me?
We're not allowed to speak in citizens' comments, so we just want to listen to you, okay?
Wow, I would never do that. Devin, go ahead.
Good morning, Commissioners and Judge. Again, I wanted to thank y'all for the opportunity to come here and have this internship program. As the judge mentioned, he has a special project. What we're doing, me and Victoria, we examine specifically the civil minute books downstairs in the courtroom for civil jury charges. Basically, whenever the judge, is going to have a jury trial, and he's going to tell the jury, okay, this is what you're going to look for, and these are the definitions I'm going to give you to proceed into your deliberations. We're looking at those specifically because they're not indexed, they're not cataloged, and this is just knowledge that's downstairs, and we're not utilizing it. Essentially, judges from our previous, the 63rd, before the 83rd was there, they would write these charges, and they would use actually these definitions of law in their charges. But civil trials are like so rare nowadays that judges don't necessarily have the option of looking for what we have in the system. So whenever we go downstairs and we find these charges and we bring them up, we scan them into the system, and then we can get we have a catalog. We have about 20 right now, and it took us, my goodness, it took us hours of man labor just to get these 20. It was about weeks to get these 20, and essentially, it gives us the opportunity, to learn what these judges thought, to learn how the thought process of the law goes, and this internship helps us focus on keeping a legal or understanding legal principles, throughout time as well. And I'd just like to thank you for the opportunity as well to open these doors for us. I was an intern in Park County. Sorry, I'm getting a little.
Somebody.
You're okay?
Are you calling it, Ethan?
I got it right here. Judge, you want to answer? Judge, you want to answer? Yeah. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. No, I'm sure.
Oh, I know. Commissioner Ford.
Just stay here with you.
He's already gone.
Did you do it today?
No, okay. Yeah, what happens is,
Much more. Please.
Nope.
You have an apple cart?
no.
You know what might be wrong with it?
Hmm.
You know what might be wrong with it?
Oh, I guess. So what happens is, when I get nervous, sometimes
Did you stop the video?
like a baby going where I'm going now. So I'll just send it once to the doctor's office.
Are you here? You're a doctor?
Kind of scary, but hope everything turns out all right. All right, now, I'm going to move something around because I know the judge has to leave. The next one will be item 12, discuss possible action on supplementing the juvenile probation department budget to meet payroll and to finish the fiscal year. And on this one, the judge and I got together because Judge Gonzalez is out of town, and he's actually the chairman of the board, but he asked us to do it. And I'm only gonna do one thing and then Judge Scott and I will take over. Remember that the juvenile department building is grandfathered, so we don't have to meet a lot of requirements. If it closes and we wanna open it up, it will not meet the requirements, so we're stuck. Either we wanna continue funding it, because if it closes, we're gonna have to build a brand new juvenile department building. So, Judge, come on up and help us out.
All right. I promise you, things are never boring. I'll tell you that. Okay, but just yesterday, I think it's kind of ironic, and I'm going to present this to the county judge. I received a 97-page evaluation of the juvenile probation department. These are part of the requirements that they have to pass in order to stay open. They were in compliance with everything. But this will tell you the amount of scrutiny that these departments go under and why it is invaluable to keep something like this open. Because if something like this were to close, as Judge Valdez mentioned, you can imagine the type of scrutiny. And you, advice would happen. I know that you sometimes have to build buildings. You understand how difficult it is to go through compliance and things like that. And I'm not saying that compliance is good or bad. I'm just saying that there's a lot of scrutiny.
Yeah.
And so here's a 97-page document. I don't expect you to read it, Judge. And then I received another 11-page document that also backed up the juvenile detention center and the fact that they're doing a great job of trying to keep those doors open. And they're also jumping through all the hoops in order to stay in compliance. Now, the thing about the juvenile probation department is that we never had to be at this type of crossroads. As far as I know, when I was the assistant DA from 1989 to 1995, it was always open. It was always there for us to take care of juveniles that needed to be detained. And it's a part of the system that we have that is important for the overall health of this particular community. And so we're talking about an unknown here. If you were to close it, then all of a sudden, I think we are cast into the unknown. And the unknown being, you are now going to be subjected to taking your juveniles somewhere else, if they accept them. You're going to be subjected to costs that is unknown, because now they set the fees as to what is you're going to have to pay per month or per day to house them. You're now subjected to travel costs that we didn't have to travel, hundreds of miles to take them here and there. I think the main thing is here is that in respect, with the vision that this court had and the previous courts had, we have our own juvenile detention center. We can take care of our business here. And that's important. You're not asking someone else to take your issue. And I think at this point, we can, not that we control things, we just don't. We understand that. But you have more of a say of what it is that happens with these young people here. A lot of times they diffuse situations. Sometimes an issue arises, then you can take and house this juvenile up to 10 days at a time, detention center, and you can do that here locally. What happens if this happens at 1, 2, 3, 4 in the morning? You can't put them with adults. It's absolutely prohibited. And then you're going to have to be calling to see if there's a bed out there. And then you're going to have to transport them in the middle of the morning. And those are the unknowns that we've never had to deal with. And I think right now, vision costs, lack of vision costs more. And right now, this court has had the vision to keep it open. And I know you put a dollar figure to the fact that they need $30,000 to...
Okay, that's what, is it 30?
30,000.
30.
Because we'd heard 30 to 40.
And it could be so depending on payroll.
Right.
So it was not harming to go forward just in case.
I think we need to keep it open. I'm not disagreeing with that. My question is how did we, I've been here 16 years. We've never run out of money.
And I think that has a lot to do with Roger Soto and how he was able to manage that even in the lean years. Because there have been lean years for them, but they don't really come up to you all and ask you. Or when they do ask you, there were other priorities, and nobody's pointing any fingers here. But he's got contracts, and I made sure to ask him this. Who do you have contracts with where these folks would bring their juveniles here? It's got contracts with Midland, Kerrville, Fort Stockton. I know that because I cover that. Eagle Pass, the Kickapoo Nation, Alpine, Uvalde, Dimmitt, Zavala. And then this facility charge $95 a day to house their juveniles. There's a lot of them that are closing. Fort Stockton has a beautiful facility. I toured it. It's closed.
Judge, let me, to answer your question, when I said with Roger, because I did sit with him and looked at the budget, one of the biggest things that it is, and you hit the nail on the head, a lot of times when you have to, Commissioner, is the state gives us more requirements, and they want us to do it, but they don't give us any money. Let me give you an example. Before, when Roger and I were there, he had one probation officer for midnight shift. The state says now you require 2. Well, it increased the budget, but the state doesn't give us any money. That's actually what we've been talking about. The state is giving us all these requirements, and you hit it in the nail on the head a lot of times, but they don't give us money to subsidize whatever they require us to do. That's one of them. And Roger has been great about trying to not come to the juvenile, up to the court and say, I need money. But it's come to the point that sooner or later, the closest one is, we talked about is Jordanton, that we would have to send to Jordanton. And the cost of doing all that, I think is, at the end, won't be more than 30,000 if we require, or 40,000. But at the same time, we also have a vision, and this court had a vision that we're about to complete the adult probation, the women's shelter, when we're gonna move the adult probation to the old women's shelter. And so they'll be housed even better. So I see nothing but good coming out of this. And we need to keep it open. And, I'm for it because, to be honest with you, Roger has been doing great. And he said, I'm only gonna last this year, I'm gonna retire. But he's looking up for the sake of the county. And he asked us, and so I know we have money somewhere to fund this for the end of the year and probably for next year. I think he also wanted for next year to include it in our budget, and I talked to Matt, 50,000 more increase. I think he stayed at 250 for so many years. He wants up to 300,000 if he can.
About approximately 4 years off the top of my head.
Yes. I mean, it's a great program. I'm not opposed to closing, but what irritates me is that we continue to go down this road, and not just here with the state. While they sit up there and say that they're cutting taxes and they're doing this and they're doing that, and then they want to come after local government entities like cities and counties and say that we're out of control. But what the public doesn't understand is these mandates cost money, and the state's not willing to pick up the tab. The locals have to pick up the tab, and we only have one place to go. They have a lot of places to go get money. We only have one place to go get money. And these are continued examples of how we get the unfunded mandate, and then we have to fund it locally, and then it upsets our taxpayers because we're having to raise taxes to cover these things. And I want the public to understand that in order for counties and cities to continue operating, we only have this source of taxpayers' money. And the state has got to step up to the plate. And not just in cities and counties. School districts, we've seen it in school districts with a 17% cut. And I'm on my soapbox right now, but we continue down this road while the state of Texas sits up there and hammers cities and counties and school districts about how horrible we are. But these are the examples, and this is only 40 or 50,000. This isn't a lot of money, but these continue to equate to hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars a year as we look across the spectrum of what counties have to function with in the court systems, in the jail systems, in the road systems, and everything else that we're required to do. And there has to be an end to this. We can't continue to fund these things and get hammered by the state of Texas because we are out of control in spending money. It is ridiculous. I mean, this is a great program. I'm all for keeping it open, and we're going to do what we have to do as far as I'm concerned. But this is inexcusable. These are the children that we're trying to keep out of our prisons, and this is the opportunity to catch them and do something with them and get them back as a productive citizen of this community. And we run short on money because the state continues to ask for things that maybe are realistic or maybe unrealistic. I don't know. I don't run that department, but this is just inexcusable in my opinion.
Certainly share your sentiments. These are the thing about I think the reason that Roger has been able to do this is because he does have all these contracts. He actually generates money. Mm-hmm. And he's done a very good job over the 30 years that he's been there to do that. And I think that's one of the reasons
it just caught up to us.
It just finally is now become a priority because what had happened is that there's a number of juveniles now across the state. The detention of them has gone down. We were simply reflecting the same percentages. And so it's gone down, but I think as the other people have closed their facilities, we're hopeful, maybe, it's kind of like when economy kind of comes down and maybe there's a monopoly on something. Maybe in this area, he's going to end up being the one with monopoly, so we just got to kind of help him get through this particular trend. I mean, well, all we can do is be hopeful and optimistic.
I'll make a motion to, take out a contingency, 40,000, and add to the budget to get to the end of the year, and then as we go through the budget process, we'll look at, once we get their budget and the numbers, we'll look at that.
Second. Motion and a second. Any more discussion or questions? Thank you, Judge.
Okay, thank you very much for, appreciate your all's time. Appreciate it. I was going to talk a little bit more about our project, but I think we've done enough. Thank you very much. I appreciate your courtesy.
Thank you. Okay, there's a motion and a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nobody, 5-0. Thank you. Have a good day, Judge. All right, let's go back now to item 6. Item 6 says discuss possible action requesting release of hot funds for from last year's budget. And this one was brought to us because the Historical Commission is asking for $3,000 that we have already approved. The reason we hadn't released those funds because they hadn't submitted a budget. They submitted a budget yesterday, and I sent it over to your office. And like I said, it's $3,000, and I think it's going to have to.
I'll make a motion to approve it, but I've got some additional comments.
Okay, there's a motion. Second.
This money comes from the hotels and motels out by the lake outside the city limits. I think we need to, and I know this will open up a hornet's nest, but we need to relook at how we utilize these funds. They're generated from people who stay at hotels out at the lake to come down fishing. And this particular fund here for the Historical Society, I think, generates no value to those hotels. I think we need to relook at using that fund to promote the lake and to promote the fishing tournaments that can generate the revenue. Some of these funds that we're allocating out of the hot tax fund and where they come from, I don't think benefits the users or the payers of this. And so I think we need to start looking at how we're going to relook at this situation.
Okay. Okay, anybody else? Okay, there's a motion and a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nobody, 5-0. Thank you. All right, next, item 7, discuss possible action on resolution to accept $350,000 from TxDOT CDBG contract number 7218026 from the Texas Department of Agriculture, and authorize the county judge to sign it.
Motion to accept, Judge, and have the judge sign.
There's motion and second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nobody, 5-0. Next, item 8, discuss possible action on resolution regarding civil rights compliance for Texas CDBG 7218075 and 7218026 to adopt reaffirm citizens participation plan, section 3 policy, excessive force policy, section 504 policy, fair housing policy, and code of conduct policy.
Motion to approve.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nobody, 5-0. Next, item 9, discuss possible action on lease agreement between Valverde County Fairgrounds and Del Rio 4x4 Mud Racing, July 14, 2018.
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion second. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? No. Okay. 4-1.
They're consistent.
All right, next, item 10, discuss possible action on appointing Carl Esser and Company Consultant LLC and Labor Standard Officer for Texas CDBG 7218075 and Texas CDBG 7218026.
Move.
Second. Okay, any questions? Not all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nobody, 5-0. All right, next item, 11, discuss possible action to accept and pick up 12 light poles and set aluminum bleachers donated by Ken Smith Installation of Valverde County Game Ready Fields after approval from the Grant Review Committee, and to pick up within 90 days.
I'll make a motion to approve. Mr. Smith has donated these poles. They're probably about 60-foot tall. They're aluminum poles that are designed for lightings. We're gonna try to use them for the old Alcoa field so that we can put that field back in place.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Not all those in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, move item 5-0. Next, item 13, discuss possible action exempting contract services other than the general contractor from 406.076 of the labor law. Okay.
Judge, I brought this up for further discussion. I'm trying to accomplish things over in precinct 1 with subcontractors. You're trying to do it with the women's shelter. And so I asked Mr. Cerny if he would research this and bring this up for further discussion, for clarification. It was not clear at the last, when we did discuss this. Mr. Cerny, could you let us know what you found out?
Yes, Commissioner, Judge, Commissioners. Of course, the last time this appeared on the agenda, there was made mention of an Attorney General's opinion. Fuentes mentioned that opinion. And by the way, I think it's a good point in time to point out that an Attorney General's opinion is not a law. An Attorney General's opinion is simply an opinion on an interpretation or a question as to a certain law. And therefore, let me make it perfectly clear that my remarks are not intended to be legal advice. Number one, it would be illegal for me to do so. And number two, you have a very talented young attorney here that can provide you with any legal advice that you need. The day subsequent to this meeting, of course, I wanted to complete my files. I wanted to put this to rest, so I called Mr. Fuentes and requested that if he could forward me that Attorney General's opinion. And what he did was forward me a portion of it. And I'd like to put it up here. I'm not too familiar with this thing. Let's see. Okay. Anyway, it says,
It's okay, Rod.
right there. All right. And this is what he forwarded me. Dear Roger, here is the opinion cite. Essentially, the statute mandates that the county, when contracting with a general contractor, and I was the one that highlighted that for the purposes of building, constructing a structure, building a roadway, must receive from the contractor written assurances that the contractor has a suitable workman's compensation insurance coverage for its employees. If it cannot provide such assurances, the contractor is not permitted to perform services for the county. This provision applies to every building or construction contract entered into by the county, no matter how small the subject matter might be. And that's absolutely correct. What I did, however, in essence, I wanted to find the opinion. I know that Mr. Fuentes, I didn't want to bother him again because I know he has a multitude of things that he has to do for the county. So I searched the opinion myself, and I believe it's the same opinion because the language is exactly the same as you cited me. This is an opinion that was requested by the chancellor of the University of North Texas in Denton, Texas. And basically, apparently they had the same question that this court had, and we're mulling over the same issues. And of course, what he starts to cite here is laying out what the law, section 406.096 of the labor code is, a pertinent part and follows, and there's no doubt that this has been discussed and discussed here in court, and as such. Then he continues on, and this is the part that I found very interesting, that I thought needed to be brought to the attention of the court. Apparently, this gentleman that requested this opinion cited various things that they're struggling with that he wanted to question on They were like furnishing installation of an item in a building, such as the installation of carpeting for a single office or a wall system to divide a room in half, the service or repair of a certain item, such as replacement of glass windows, repair of malfunctioning electronic door, resealing seams, restretching a carpet, small sheet metal projects, specialized pipe fitting, annual services for servicing elevators and fire alarm systems. Now, what I did find very interesting and noteworthy is that the Attorney General replies and says, we cannot answer this question because the determination in each case may depend on a consideration of additional facts to determine whether the job constitutes building or construction as defined in 406.096E. The resolution of questions of fact is not a function of the Attorney General's opinion process. For this reason, we cannot amplify the statutory definition of building construction to provide a formula for determining whether or not these jobs are building or construction projects. Basically,
Roger.
Yes.
Go back to the other sheet.
Yes, I'll be happy to.
One, move it up a little.
The first one?
Well, D is, I guess, what you'd hang your hat on. The employment of a maintenance employee by an employer is not engaging in a building construction. So is that giving us a window?
Well, let me tell you what gives you the window, if you'll let me continue to the next page, then we can go back to this. As you remember, and it's very true in the statement that, or the opinion, or the excerpt of the opinion that he sent me, refers to a general contractor. And here is what the opinion, and this is part of the Attorney General's opinion. The statutory definition of general contractor is consistent for the most part with that found in Black's Law Library. One who contracts for the construction of an entire building or project rather than a portion of the work. The general contractor hires subcontractors, plumbing, electrical, etc., coordinates all work, and is responsible for payment to subcontractors, also called prime contractors. Then it goes on to even define it even more in the same context. Now, my opinion, or my interpretation of that is this. And of course, if you remember in the previous page, it said large or small general contractor. If we were to ask for bids on a pump room over this well that we have here at the courthouse, and that was going to require, and we went to a contractor and we said, yeah, you do what you have to do, we want a well here. And he had to go out and he had to hire, he had to get a subcontractor, a plumber, he had to get an electrician to make certain arrangements there to service the well because they had to reroute this. And he built that little pump house. In essence, as small as it is, he's a general contractor because he's done exactly what Black Law's definition of a general contractor is. Conversely, if we had to hire, there was a valve that broke and we had to hire somebody to come out. Of course, I know we have in-house people to do this, but supposing we had to hire someone to come out to replace that valve, he certainly not is a general contractor in my opinion. If I call Commissioner Nettleton out to my house and say, Commissioner, whether it be a private entity or a public entity or private, and I say, Commissioner, I want you to install give me a price on a sprinkler system here. And he does. Of course, he might have to hire an electrician to do part of it, and he does the rest of it. He's providing all the materials. He is a general contractor. If I call Commissioner Nettleton on an already installed system to come out and replace a valve or a piece of pipe, I don't think that he is a general contractor in that context. So another issue that has got, we say contract on everything. And of course, the reason for that is a public entity, we cannot, unless we have an exact price, so to speak, there's a process, PO process. So if you want to look at what makes a contract, if you call someone out to do a simple job and you say exactly how much is it going to cost to do this, because I got to have a PO for this, and he says, it's going to cost me, I can get it done, $65. You make a PO out for $65. Does that constitute a contract? Maybe it does in the sense that he gave you an exact price, because it does mention that in here. However, if you were to take and say, tell me, and I don't know whether this is feasible or not, say, get a price not to exceed a certain amount. For example, when I go, I have a PO in my office, I have several, I got a PO for oil change, I got a PO for road service, I have a PO for the tunnel wash. Your mom does a great job. Anyway, what I do is we don't know road service. It could be, so I make the road service for enough to cover going out in the county where the truck might break down or we need them to come out. And we don't make it for an exact amount. We have a blanket PO. Now, I'm not saying you talk about blanket POs, but I don't know what the auditor might say to that, is get a PO not to exceed a certain amount. Like running a water line from a meter that the city's going to install to the women's shelter, that's not a general contract. Yes, sir.
All purchase orders are legal contracts.
All purchase orders are legal contracts. Well, I still say that you got to go back to what the Attorney General told these people about this, and they kind of basically, this is, I think, crux of the thing in the sense that he said, I can't tell you every single thing that comes up, whether it falls under this law or not. I think we have intelligent people here that want to abide by the law, still want to try and get things done. And I hope that I haven't bored you with this presentation, but this information, I think, is needed to be brought to the attention of the court.
Who's going to cover that contractor when he gets hurt on the job?
Well, that's a good question. There's one other thing I want that I will bring out. You see, we have coverage for this, Commissioner Nettles. It's not like the county's going to have to reach out down in their pocket and come up with the coverage on this. We have coverage, and the Texas Tort Act, which came into effect in 1964, I believe, was it 64? In 64, limits a public entity's liability to $300,000 per occurrence. It used to be, before this, if a man lost a finger on a job, maybe the county would be subject to $1 million lawsuit verdict. But now it's a maximum of $100,000.
What happens to our insurance after we get a lot of claims?
Of course, no, needless to say, if we start having a lot of claims, then, of course, our rates are going to go up. The question is how many instances, we can always monitor that. I say monitor it in the sense that any policy that this Commissioner's Court puts in place can always be reversed.
So we're going to provide insurance for some contractors while other contractors have their own insurance.
If you want to call them general contractors, according to this.
No, there's other, there's plumbers that carry workers' comp insurance, there's people that carry insurance. But we're going to open the door to allow anybody at the expense of taxpayers, while there are companies that carry general liability and workers' comp and all the other things that they have to do.
I
just
totally
disagree
understand
with
what
this.
you're saying. I was in a business one time where we moved mobile homes. And we had all kinds of insurance and bonds and et cetera.
And Joe Blow around the street could do it without insurance, and he did it a lot cheaper.
I'd be going to church and I'd see a bootlegger rolling up and down. Let me just finish with this.
Why did you look at him?
Mr. Attorney, quick question, how is the city handling this?
I would just like to, I'm just gonna want to, relay this information, and I don't know, I'm not, yeah, it'll work like this. Okay, this is and I think y'all already are privileged to this information. This was something that, our purchasing agent, Roy Muskis, brought up. And what he did is he did a poll. He polled some counties and he polled some entities. And he found out in Medina County, they don't require general liability, they don't require workman's comp. Therefore, there's no minimum limits. Uvalde County, they do require, both, general liability and workman's comp, no amount requested. Kerr County, and these are the people that he talked to, no general liability, no workman's comp. Van Zandt County, no general liability, no workman's comp. Atascosa County, yes and yes on both. And then he checked with the entities. The city of Del Rio does not require workman's comp or general liability insurance. San Felipe Independent School District does require workman's comp, and very interestingly, you know, we've always requested a $1 million policy, but what they're looking at is they're looking at the Tort Act. So yes, they are requesting general liability, but it's $100,000 bodily injury, meaning per person, per individual, or $300,000, and that actually is not each accident, it should say for each occurrence. But it could be accident, could interpret it. And then the property damage, which we have too. And the reason I think that the school district did that on general liability, they said, well, why are we asking for $1 million when our exposure is only $300,000? I conclude with that. Thank you very much. And this is, once again, the court's decision.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney.
I have a few comments on that. I think to understand what the Texas Workers' Compensation Act, how it relates to the mandatory provision under the Texas Government Code 406.096, you have to understand why it's there in the first place and why it's being mandated. The reason is if by a political sub-entity having the requirement that contractors have workers' compensation, their only remedy if someone were to get hurt on the job would be limited to the Texas Tort Act. If we did not require a contractor to have workers' compensation, then it'd be open season on the entire county. That's the whole reason behind the Texas Workers' Compensation Act. Private employers, they don't have to have workers' compensation, but government entities do. The reason is because any political sub-entity has sufficient insurance to cover any sort of claims for their own employees. But wait a minute, there's also contractors here. Contractors, by definition, are not employees. Contractors control their own tools, equipment, their own employees, so on and so forth. So that is a distinguishing thing between employees and contractors. Contractors have, I guess, broader discretion. They're not directly under the control of the county itself. That is the reason why the code requires government sub-entities to have workers' compensation, so that in the event of a contractor's employee being hurt on the job, they can't come up to the county for millions upon millions of dollars, rather they're capped at the Texas Tort Act. And yes, Mr. Cerny is correct. The Attorney General opinion is not mandatory law. It is not law, but it's highly persuasive. And the opinion of the Attorney General, which is the top law enforcement officer, or top law guy here in Texas, what he says has incredible bearing on how courts interpret this specific law. I think what Mr. Cerny is getting at is that it's a very fact-specific determination as to say who or what type of job these people, a construction job is. And he made reference to the code. I believe it's under 406.096. section E, and it says, in this section, the building or construction includes erecting or preparing to erect a structure, including a building, bridge, roadway, a public utility facility, or related something. B, remodeling, extending, repairing, or demolishing a structure, or otherwise including real property or an appurtenance to real property through similar activities. So it's kind of broad. What's specifically excluded from a construction contract is anything other than that, and they term that maintenance. So if there is a maintenance job that a contractor is contracted to do, that contractor does not have to have workers' compensation. But the theory behind this whole thing is that a construction project is inherently more dangerous than anything else, and that's why and the legislature assumes that if there were going to be an accident, it would more likely come from a construction contract than it would from a maintenance one. So that's why they require for construction contracts only to have workers' compensation when they are contracting with, say, the county here. Also, I think I touched on this a little bit earlier, what exactly constitutes a contractor? Again, this is in the context of distinguishing between a contractor and an employee. The county has employees, they have supervisors, they have set work schedules, they have to comply with specific orders and micromanaging type scale. Contractors are the opposite. They have wide discretion on how to achieve their objective. They have a very broad one, but they employ their own employees, their own tools, so on and so forth. That is the fact-specific determination that courts will have when they are trying to determine whether or not a contractor is indeed a contractor or an employee. One last other thing, Mr. Cerny brings up and cites different counties throughout the state that actually don't require workers' compensation. I would say that they are in violation of the act, and I would also like to comment that the vast majority of these cases that have become case law come from counties that don't have or are not enforcing this particular provision of the government code. General liability, you don't have to have as a county, but definitely workers' compensation under this code. So I guess the question for the court is, number one, is this going to be a construction contract or a maintenance contract? And number two, what is the exact nature of the contractor? Is he a contractor, or has the county's authority over him grown to the point where he becomes a de facto employee? Those are the two fact-specific things. That's all.
I'd like to make a motion, Judge,
Okay, go ahead.
that Valverde County exempt contractor services other than a general contractor from the 406.096 of the labor code.
There's a motion. Need a second?
I'll second that.
Second. Okay, any more discussion?
I do.
Go ahead.
There's just one thing on here on this 406.096, and you said it. I mean, I think we've got a couple of different issues here, and you said it also. One's maintenance and one's actual construction. I have no problem with the maintenance part, because that actually in Section D, it tells you the employment of a maintenance employee by an employer who is not engaging in building or construction. I mean, that right there is that sort of gives us a window. You know, we keep bringing up the other day that we had a sewer problem and the judge, had to wait because we couldn't get it done because we were waiting on whether the guy had insurance or not. D gives the judge the right to hire this guy.
Just to add that was actually more of a health problem than it was.
So I don't.
All right.
I think there's two different things here. I don't know whether the motion's too broad or what, but I mean, I agree that as a maintenance, because they are giving us the window, if you're doing maintenance, if you're, I think there's a deal later on that there's $11,000 bid or whatever to paint a building. That would be maintenance. I don't know whether the motion's going to be too broad, or how would you control that?
From what I picked up, it was maintenance is the one thing that does not apply, and the key word is improvement or construction to existing property.
Right, exactly. I think subsection.
That's right in the middle. It could be regular maintenance, or it could be
Well, the thing
improvement.
is, though, it's on a building. I mean, it's maintenance, if anything, it's preventive maintenance. I mean, so somebody's gonna have to make that determination.
One thing that I think that in this opinion, and of course, the opinion is written broadly, but it does occur to he took the time to research Black Law's dictionary to determine what a general contractor is. And he stated a general contractor.
Your motion, Commissioner Wardlaw, was for maintenance, or what was the motion? I'm sorry.
Contracted services.
If I may, the motion as written does not specify or distinguish between maintenance contracting or construction contracting. And to your point, Commissioner Owens, subsection D only applies to companies whose primary business is not construction. As to the emergencies...
And just, that way we're sort of talking about each item by itself, excuse the interruption, but, I mean, like most of the people that we're gonna call to do the painting, to do the plumbing, to do the electrical, they're really subcontractors, and I can understand having somebody come in, if the light goes out, let's get somebody to fix the light. You know, if I'm gonna add a building, add a room to it, I think I guess we just take it there.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
And I abstain, because I'm really confused on this one too, to be honest with you, I am.
Well,
Now, let me just finish up. On the one that happened to me, after I checked on it, because I'm the emergency med coordinator, and it was a health problem, that emergency coordinator title supersedes all the things that I need to require, right?
That's correct, Judge.
And we talked about it
The
too.
judge had asked me to research that, and if there's a health hazard, if there's anything that remotely involves danger, the powers of the emergency coordinator has carte blanche to proceed
Right.
however they want to, despite the existence of this statute.
Yeah.
And I go back to also if it's maintenance, at the 4-H barns, there was meter loops put up because what was there was old, so you had to do maintenance on them and put them up. I mean, I don't think, I could understand that because it gives us that authority in D.
Right.
We're not waiving that. Waiving everything scares me.
Okay. Oh,
I mean, my concern is that, I mean, we're splitting hairs with maintenance and construction here, but, we are bringing in an outside individual to work on something here. If they get injured or injure somebody else in the process of doing that, this county becomes liable, and we have no repercussions to go back on that contractor, be it a sub or be it whatever you want to call it. We have no repercussions to go back. The county becomes 100% liable for whatever happens. You know, you come in here to fix a light and you burn down the whole building. Yes, our insurance covers it. I mean, I understand that. You know, if a contractor shows up to my house and burns down my house, yeah, my insurance is going to cover it. But, you know, it is what it is. I mean, you know, there are contractors that make sure they have all the things to protect themselves. There are contractors that don't.
all right. Well, again, that's 2-2 and I abstain, so the motion dies. All right. Let's go now to item 14. Discuss possible action regarding the budget amendment request from the county clerk's office to transfer $50,000 from the contract services line item to capital item for records management and preservation fund for purchase and installation of storage system.
I hate to follow that conversation, but I was told that the item that I'm purchasing is more in the capital outlay line item instead of the services line item, and therefore all I'm asking is to transfer the money from the contract services line item to the capital outlay item so that we can do what we need to
Motion to
do.
approve.
Motion, second. All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nobody. 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
And item 15, discuss possible action to consolidate election precincts for July 31st, 2018, SD 19 special election. This is for the election to fill the seat of Carlos Celeste.
Yes, and I do have one correction to the court. Precinct 3, I had put down Dink Wardlaw Agricultural Complex. It needs to be the 4-H farms. Unfortunately, the Dink Wardlaw, although it's probably a better suited facility for doing elections, it winds up being in precinct 1. So we need to be in precinct 3, which is going back to the 4-H. That's the only correction I have.
Motion to approve.
I think Martin had already.
Oh, sorry.
Martin motion.
Motion?
Second.
Second. Okay, all those in favor, indicate by saying aye. All those opposed, nobody, 5-0.
Thank you very much.
All right. Now let's go to item 16, discuss possible action regarding the expenditure to make precinct 4 tax note account for exterior painting of community center at cost of $1,800.
Motion to approve, Judge.
Motion, I need a second.
Second.
Second. All those in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nobody.
And they do have the required insurance and workers' comp.
Okay, thank you. Our next discussion and possible action regarding the trade of the Komatsu WB-140 backhoe as part of the equipment purchase.
Motion to approve, Judge.
Motion?
Trading in.
My old
That
backhoe.
wore out tractor.
Okay.
Second.
The motion is second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nobody. Next, item 18, discuss possible action regarding expenditure and to be made from precinct 4 tax note account of purchase of CAT 277C2 skid steer brush cutter style grapple to include trade-in a total cost of $56,750.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nobody. 5-0. Next, discuss possible action regarding expenditure from the courthouse security fund to upgrade 24 hold up panic button for the price of $840. Is that right? Because
Yeah, there's like a lot of
a
zeros.
lot of zeros.
Where?
And then you got zeros and zeros and zeros.
Yeah.
When I first looked that up, you said 840,000. I'm like, ah, dang.
There's a motion.
There's gonna be
Who made the
discussion
motion?
on that.
Who made the motion? Is there a motion?
I did.
Okay, you did. There's a second. There's a motion and a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All
Where these
opposed,
going?
nobody.
Just throughout the courthouse?
They're actually in the older courthouse, right? In the main courthouse?
Yeah.
That's correct.
Next, discuss possible action regarding the draft copy number 1 to step process initiating the purchase.
In the effort to have clarification and making sure all the departments understand how a purchase is made, and primarily if you ask the purchasing agent, he's gonna have the view of how a purchase, more important on how to initiate a purchase, and then I got with our counterpart in the auditor's office, and his, viewpoint, after he provided a flow chart that's in association with this. His view is more focused on what are the requirements to make sure that an invoice gets paid properly. And they both tie in perfectly. These are drafts, of course, and we'd like some opinions on them, or if there's any modifications to them, but the initiation to a purchase, I broke it down into general ledger, special funds, and then all the capital outlay, grant purchases, and tax note categories. So we're just trying to establish a step.
Can you provide the flow chart to all department heads and elected officials so they'll know what we're talking about at the same time? Maybe we can get feedback from them on the next meeting, just vote on it. Would that be all right with the commissioners? Because they haven't looked at this flow chart. I think the flow chart would be good for them to see.
It's like confusing, right?
Right.
This is confusing.
That one.
This one?
With color
With color and
Who made it? Who made it?
Well, put a star.
I know, we don't have.
Commissioner, that was the very first thing I told him when we met. I said, this is not straightforward.
No, it's like you need to put like start or something, because I mean, like,
See it, Commissioner?
Well, and that's
You can see what it looks
I
like.
understand that. That's
Yeah, we don't have-
where I put star. I mean.
Well, Commissioner, but you know what? If they look at this flow chart, everybody else, they'll give us input, what we need to change on that flow chart.
Yeah, we'll put it together with a step process, a flow chart, and I believe there was one more clarifying or giving definitions of certain,
I thought it was pretty simple. If you're gonna buy something, get a PO.
well, it was, but
What happened to the simple part? Is that not pretty much the policy?
they go together.
Is that not the policy? If you want to buy something in Beverly County,
Yes, sir.
you get a purchase order.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Then
sir.
you bring in an invoice,
Yes, sir.
and we pay the invoice.
It's not that simple.
That's the flow chart.
I mean, that's pretty simple. I mean, I don't know why we're complicated.
Yeah, but
I know, I
It's not that
know.
My effort was to give a step by step, don't forget to do this, just, if you, somebody that doesn't do it on a regular basis, they can look at it and.
Somebody who does,
The reference.
who in this county doesn't? They buy stuff every single day. And everyone that shows up in front of this court probably spends the most money. How can they not know? Get a PO, get an invoice, turn it in, get a check, done.
Just trying to, institute an effort to get everybody on the same page.
And colors on
And
paper.
Matt-
Colors and
Thank you,
arrows
thank-
and.
thank you for the great
and
production.
Did you get a PO to buy the colors?
Let's do it. Each department is actually one color, so,
All right, thank
Is
you.
there, Judge, is there any way that there could, I mean, that they could look into an exception for the books? That's the only thing that I
Well-
complain about every time. Just if we don't have a PO,
Well-
it's a book, it's not a computer or anything that we're gonna
Well,
buy.
that's why I want you guys to see it and to give us an input before we vote on anything. Give us an input, what would you like to see in this flow
Yeah,
chart or
I might
whatever.
It's just like the argument we had 5 minutes ago over what the statute says about workers' comp. Same issue. Statute says must get purchase order and follow purchasing policy.
Amen.
All right, thank you. All right. So we'll get.
We'll put the packet together and send it out to the department.
Okay, thank you. All right, item 21, discuss possible action regarding payment of extra purchase not complying with the current purchase policy.
From this point on, the only thing I need to say on that line item, the county auditor will now be submitting those on a regular basis and determine whether he has legal, what's that term that you use?
when were we talking about? Yesterday?
I slept.
Oh, you got sleep?
It's okay.
Okay.
Just go.
All right, thank you. And now let's go to item 22, discuss possible action authorizing Sheriff Joe Frank Martin to request credit card for the Beverly Sheriff's Office to be issued.
Motion to approve, Judge.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nobody, 5-0. Item 23, discuss possible action authorizing Sheriff Joe Frank Martin to transfer $7,000 from the auto line item office expense line item to purchasing facility system or workspace solution, sorry.
Motion to approve.
There's a motion.
Is this a capital?
Yes, we go to capital, yes. But you have the money there, so. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nobody. 5-0. Next, item 24, discuss possible action regarding authorizing Sheriff Joe Frank Martin to dispose of surplus scrap material from the Belvedere office and Comstock residence.
There's a lot of, over the years, that place has been used as a dump ground for stuff that doesn't work anymore. There's refrigerators, stoves, air conditioners, there's all kinds of stuff, and I visited with Commissioner Nettleton earlier this week. We want to get it cleaned up and build the road up there, so we just get rid of that stuff, take it, it's scrap, basically.
Where's the money going?
Put it in the general, I don't care.
Motion to approve.
There's a motion and a
You're
second.
talking all of about $5, dude.
No, it's not gonna go to precinct 4. All right, there's a motion and a second. All those in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nobody.
I second.
Okay.
Okay, all right. He wants us to table item 25 because the legal department's looking at that. So let's put item 26, discuss possible action authorizing Sheriff Joe Frank Martinez to request equipment donation from the United States Deputy Sheriff's Association.
Yes, there was a deadline on this, and we present this to the grant committee's a donation. It's first aid trauma kits, it's a Z-Medic, and then also 2 portable intoxilizers that we use to analyze breath on the side of the road.
Move.
So moved. Second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nobody, 5-0. And item 27, discuss possible action regarding action authorizing Sheriff Joe Frank Martinez to sign modification of contract between the Malton Air Force Base and Valverde Sheriff's Office.
Move.
Second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nobody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 28, the monthly report from Treasury.
There's no treasurer's report. The last one that you all approved 2 weeks ago is the one for May.
Okay, thank you. HR monthly report, May 3rd, 2018 to May 16, 2018.
Move.
So move. Need a second? Second. Any discussion? Not all those in favor, indicate by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nobody, 5-0. Next, item 30. Discuss possible action on payment approved purchase invoices that do not comply with purchasing policy.
Good morning, Judge, board members. You have that list in front of you?
Right.
I believe if there's any questions on that to go over these claims.
I need a motion.
No, here we go. It should look like this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in the brown envelope.
Oh, it's in here.
Okay.
It's in the brown envelope.
You'll be making copies for us, 2 minutes, for the packets.
Sure.
Whoever's on the list should get a copy of it.
Can I need a motion to
Just
accept?
why should they get a copy? Just wondering. I don't want.
Do we want to put this in the minutes or not? Because then it would have
No.
to be. No?
We're currently working out that process.
Okay.
Did we get a motion?
Motion to approve.
Okay, there's a motion and second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed.
Yeah, I think, no, we were.
Next, the monthly audit report. I think all of you have it already.
Yes.
I need a motion to accept.
Motion to accept.
Motion, I need a
Second.
second. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nobody? 5-0. All right, we need to go to executive session.
I believe.
Yeah, I need one discussion on executive session. Okay, we're now going to executive session pursuant to the Government Code 551.071, parentheses 2. Go ahead. 10:53.
10:51 according to my computer.
10:51, that's fine. Okay. We're back in session. Roger, any approval of subdivision tax?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Certificate of compliance?
No, sir.
Okay. Need a motion to accept the elected officials' report.
Move.
So moved.
Second.
Second. All those in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, nobody. Approved bills for payments.
Move.
So moved.
Second.
Second. All those in favor, indicate by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nobody. And I do have some comments on the judge's comments. We're having a big, district, tournament in our fields next weekend. There will be 10 cities coming to our tournament. It's the first time ever. We're really proud of our fields. We will have everybody from San Antonio, Fredericksburg, Kerrville, Divine, San Angelo, teams coming next weekend. It would be good to show up. I'm sorry I have to take a vacation, but I think, last night also, the city appropriated some hot tax money to help us out on there. So again, invite everybody to go out there this coming weekend, and like I said, it'll be a good revenue source for everybody. Other than that, thank you all. Nothing else, the meeting's adjourned.